We're going to speak to our correspondent who joins us from there now, Kethevane Gorjestani. Kethevane, I mean, the very clear and tough words from Joe Biden, as we were talking about earlier, that conversation as well, you know, just really as those Russian troops started entering parts of Ukraine between Joe Biden and Volodymyr Zelensky.
Yes, the two men speaking and Joe Biden really putting out a readout of that call very quickly after that call ended, saying that it was Volodymyr Zelensky that reached out to him and that the Ukrainian president asked Joe Biden to really rally the whole world in support of Ukraine and to stand with Ukraine against Russia. As you said, the first reaction from the White House was that statement by the president, and you read part of that statement. There's also a line where it says, "Russia alone is responsible for the death and destruction this attack will bring, and the United States and its allies will respond in a united and decisive way." And that response is likely to come later on today when Joe Biden addresses the nation. The White House announcing that the president would be speaking from the East Room. There's first going to be a virtual G7 meeting. That meeting was planned even before this Russian invasion, but that meeting will now be really focused on what response to give to Vladimir Putin's actions. And Joe Biden will be speaking right after that meeting and very likely announcing those swift and severe sanctions that Washington has been talking about for weeks now. They had always said, we will have swift and severe sanctions if Russia were to invade Ukraine. This is now considered by Washington and by the allies as a full-scale invasion, and some U.S. officials are now talking about full-scale sanctions. What type of sanctions exactly, we don't know the specifics, but some of the things that were on the table that had not been announced in the first round of sanctions are things like export controls, removing Russia from the SWIFT financial system, and even possibly some direct sanctions on the Russian president himself, Vladimir Putin.
Just very briefly, Kethevane, we're just hearing, in fact, from Volodymyr Zelensky saying we're building an anti-Putin coalition. I mean, obviously, his European allies and those allies there in the US are going to be crucial to that.
Yes, they are. And the U.S., of course, this call between Zelensky and Biden was also a way to show that the U.S. was standing right there in support of the Ukrainians. And I'm sure some of these calls will be happening with some of the European leaders with the Ukrainian leader. And part of the standing together is also shoring up the NATO eastern flank. And that's something that the United States has started doing. Joe Biden ordering some redeployments of troops and equipment to that eastern flanks. You're going to have about 800 soldiers who are stationed in Italy, who are moving to the 3 Baltic states. Those Baltic states, of course, on the front line of that eastern flank facing Russia. There will also be fighter jets, helicopters being moved from Germany to Poland to those Baltic states. And so even though you've heard Joe Biden say over and over again that there would not be U.S. troops in Ukraine directly fighting Russia, you will see that bolstering of forces on NATO's eastern flanks in case Vladimir Putin were to move beyond what he has done in Ukraine and go for some of these NATO member states. But the posturing is unity among NATO allies and unity with the Ukrainians, supporting them in any way they can, whether it's military equipment, financial support, logistical support. But right now, at least, what we're hearing from the United States is no troops on the ground, though this was not really what they had envisioned. So we will be hearing from Joe Biden, and possibly we'll get some more information when he makes that speech later on today.
Kethevane, thanks very much. Kethevane Gorjestani in Washington there. Well,